G'day art adventurers, welcome back to my channel. My name is Christopher. Guess where I have been for the last couple of weeks? Bing, 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 bing. Can you figure it out? So hey there, you probably wondered where I've been, or maybe not, for the last couple of weeks, but that is because I've been traveling with my partner to Las Vegas and the Grand Canyon. We had a fantastic trip away, and I wanted to share some of that with you today, specifically to show you what sort of art equipment I take with me when I'm traveling, especially by a plane. And I also wanted to show you some of the sketches that I did while we were traveling there. So let's go dive in. Okay, so here we have my travel essentials, or the things that I really love to take when I can. And so first of all, we'll start with water brushes. Really great for on the go. If you haven't seen them before, they come in all sorts of different brush shapes and sizes, and you can just twist open the brush and fill it up with water. And then you've got your own portable water source wherever you're going, and when you squeeze, the water will just trickle out. The harder you squeeze, the more water comes out. And so I like this one for background flat washes, but most of my painting I'll do with a brush about this size, or this one for finer detail. And of course, in a pinch, you only need to take one of them, but I like having three, especially if I'm going to be out and about all day. I usually find that I'll use up all the water inside of one for about each painting the size of about this sketchbook. And so that's the next thing. You'll need some sort of sketchbook. This one is my absolute favorite that I've come across so far. I've tried a bunch of different ones, but for watercolor, this Pentalic Aqua Journal is just brilliant, and the paper I think is far, far greater than say something like the Moleskine watercolor sketchbook. And so here you can see one of the sketches that I did when we were at Las Vegas, and I did this in about half an hour. That includes the drawing time, so this one was really, really rushed. And I might get around to adding more to it later, but if that's all that I get, it's still a great memory for me. And when you go back years later and you look at these, the memories that come back are really, really rich and powerful, far more than even with a photograph, I find. And next up, I'll show you what I use for drawing and inking. Probably I have way more than you'll need in here, but I like to have a red pencil and a blue pencil and a graphite pencil so that I can get different kinds of lines, and just as fun to have something else to draw with, or something different to draw with. And I've got refill leads in this little tube here. And then a ruler, often because I'll write down some information or draw a border. It's a huge tip that I recommend, and you'll see it again if I show you on this image, that if you write down some of the details of your sketch, it's really useful, particularly the date. You always think that you're going to remember where you were and when you drew it, but you never do unless you write down those things onto the sketch. So I like to rule a border, and then underneath the border or somewhere, I'll put down those details often, not always, but often, of where I was and when I drew it. And then going back to my sketching gear, various erasers. So this is a fairly fine 0.1, and this is the Tombow super fine eraser. And I also like to often ink my drawing with a waterproof ink. The best one that I've come across personally is the Unipin. And again, you don't need to have so many of them. You could decide which is your favorite line width to take with you, but I've got a 0.1, a 0.2, and a 0.5 here. And then that leaves one last item, two, sorry, but they're the same thing, paintbrushes. You don't need more paintbrushes, but water brushes are fine and great, but if you do have the chance to use an actual cup of water or a container of water, it's great to have a travel brush. So you can see this one from Holbein here. It just pulls out and then reverses and slides in to give you a full brush size, but then you're going to protect the bristles when you're traveling with a travel brush like this. And then this tiny fine one actually belongs in this watercolor set. And so let me show you it. It's from Winsor & Newton, and it's probably the best all-containing watercolor set that I've come across or found. And this brush goes in here, so it can all close up. But before I show you this in finer detail, let me just show you the other couple of things. So a pencil sharpener. Again, if you're just using a mechanical pencil like this, you don't need a pencil sharpener. But because I'm taking a couple of colored pencils with me, I do take a pencil sharpener, and then this one will contain the shavings and then secure it into place so that the shavings won't fall out. So I really love this one from Faber-Castell. And then tissues for blotting or soaking or cleaning brushes and those sorts of things. Okay. I, on this trip, took two other things with me. One was a whole pencil case of some Colorace pencils. Oh, I also had a grey pen that was actually in my pencil case, my metal pencil case, but I forgot about it. Anyway, Colorace pencils and a bunch of watercolor pencils. I got these at a flea market. These are Art Grip Aquarelle watercolor pencils, and they're in a good range of different colors. And I also took on this trip a large sketchbook in case I had time to do a larger piece with me, but normally I don't take this one traveling with me, but I did this time, and I did one painting in it. Okay, so I'll bring down the camera to show you the watercolor kit in more detail. Okay, so here is my watercolor paint travel kit. I've used a whole bunch of different travel kits for watercoloring on the go, but this one I think is the best all-rounder. It's from Winsor & Newton, but I didn't especially like the paint, so I transferred them out. But if you open this up, you have, and I've just shoved some tissues in there, but you have a cup. When you open this up, you've got, and again, I've just placed more tissues in there. I always have tissues everywhere. You've got a little mini paintbrush for details that I showed you before. And so like the other travel brush that I showed you, you can just protect the bristles by pulling it out and then sliding this back into place. And then it will sit inside there. And then this removes, and it's a container for water so that you can just open this up and pour water into the cup on the go. And I find that this little thin bottle fills up this cup twice over. And then you've got your paints and your palette area. And it's been quite warm here, so the paints have gotten all gooey and moved around a lot here. And again, these are not the original Winsor & Newton paints. I've transferred in some other paints. I think they're from a Van Gogh set, which I much more prefer. And so then you can mix and stuff, and it also even comes with a little sponge for sponge effects or drying off your brush. I think this is great because it gives you a couple of spaces for working. You've got water if you want to use a travel brush. It's just super compact and everything folds away neatly without making a mess, although I've made a mess on myself here opening it. But if you put it all away, you see that everything is neatly contained. By the way, this is kind of expensive from memory. I think it might have cost $70 or $80 or the equivalent of that when I was in Japan. You can get far cheaper option. The first one that I ever used was this one, the Sakura Koi set, and it was, I think, $20 to $30 when I first bought it, and it gives you a mixing area and you can put this aside and then use these paints, and it comes with a water brush and sponges and everything. So it's a really great option. The paints aren't as good as these paints. These paints in here that I've chosen, they were from the Van Gogh set, which was originally in this container. And it's an okay one. I just found that it was a bit flimsy, and it came with a brush and has some paint areas and stuff, but I just don't like it so much for traveling. And I found, see, you can just kind of open it by accident. So it's not such a great one for traveling. This Sakura Koi one I have used for traveling, and it works great and it stays closed. But the paints aren't light fast and they can be a little bit chalky, but they're still fine. And I used it, and I still use it sometimes, but I used it traveling for a couple of years. And then this one I don't use all the time, but I think it's the best all-rounder. And I often use one like this if you're looking for different options, and they can come in various price groupings and from different companies. So this is the Primatech set, more tissues. It cost me, I think, $20 at the time, and you have room to put a travel brush in there. You just don't have any water with you, but that's okay for me because I always take, when I'm traveling, some water brushes, like I said. And one last thing that I forgot to show you is a little bottle of water in a sprayer, so that I can spray wet my paints and spray wet the paper if I want to do a quick background. So that's a lot of stuff. I'll show you the bare essentials that I would take with me, and that would be these things here: the sketchbook, tissues, the paints, and one pencil case, and a couple of water brushes. So those are my bare essentials for traveling. So if you have any questions about my travel gear or the things that I just showed you, feel free to ask me in the comments below. And of course, I would love to know what other people take with them when they're traveling, or the things that they find are the useful tips and tricks that they've picked up along the way. So if you want to share that with me in the comments, I would really love it as well. I also wanted to say a huge thank you because I have now reached 100 subscribers. I'm so excited, and it really encourages me to keep making videos, so thank you so much. And if you haven't subscribed, please click the little subscribe button and the little bell next to it so that you'll find out when I make more videos, including the second half to this series where I show you the sketches that I made while traveling. Okay, bye!